Born on a balmy summer day in Kilsyth, West Virginia. I am Anna Frances Clark. Although most just call me Frances. The chirping of the crickets and distant chatter of the townsfolk surrounded my entrance into this world. My father, George Harriff Williams, a sturdy and hard-working man of 56, looked at me with eyes gleaming with pride, and Lula May, my radiant mother at 37, held me close to her, and I felt the warmth of a mother's love. The household was lively, with Ronald at only 10 years old, always up to mischief. He, along with Thelma, my caring 7-year-old sister with a knack for storytelling, created the sweet sound of laughter that became the backdrop of my early years. By 1920, the winds of change brought our family to Boone County. A bustling area with its own rhythm, Boone County was different, but it felt like home. Papa started working as a night watchman for a lumber mill, guarding it with the same tenacity with which he protected our family. Mama was always enterprising, allowing 5 boarders to live with us to help with finances. The diverse stories, experiences, and wisdom that these boarders shared gave our home a unique mosaic of life. Joy came knocking again when Maxine was born. I was 6 then, and the world seemed all the more beautiful. 3 years later, little Mary, with her cherubic face, became part of our clan. Needing to provide for his family, Papa moved us to Cabin Creek where he began working in the coal mines, and by the time I was 11, my sister Thelma was embarking on a new life with Harry Pauley. They married and she began her new life on Harry's family farm. This made me think of love, dreams, and starting a family of my own. It felt like only yesterday when we used to play house, and now, she had her own. Missing her, I was glad I had my school as it was my safe place where I learned of all the wonders in the world. However, 1929 brought with it the shadows of the Great Depression. Once filled with laughter, our home felt the pinch of trying times. On top of this, our greatest fear, something that was too awful to speak of, happened. Papa was injured in the mines. I still remember waiting on them to help bring him home, fearing the worst. With Papa unable to ever work again, our family splintered as we had to break up the family and go our separate ways. The heartbreak of seeing our family splinter was unbearable. Papa, with Maxine and Mary, went to live with my sister Thelma, while Ronald's heart led him to Seattle, Washington where he married Frances Binion. Mama was forced to move in with Mrs. Calvert, an elderly disabled woman, as a caretaker. My fate brought me to the Spencer residence in Cabin Creek. The deal was simple: I would assist with housework, and they would provide me shelter. But, my soul yearned for more. Looking like the 9th grade would be my last, the weekly dances at the local community center became my escape. The rhythm of music, the freedom of expression, I loved it all. This is where the most exciting and life-changing thing happened in September 1931. That's when Lonnie Clark walked into my life. We instantly bonded, laughing, and dreaming together. But he had his demons, jealousy being one. After a heart-to-heart, we made a pact. I would renounce dancing, the thing that he was most jealous of, and he would give up alcohol. True to our words, we never went back. Our love blossomed, and our marriage on Christmas Eve of 1931 marked the beginning of our lifelong journey. We went to the Justice of the Peace in Charleston where we were joined together for life. I had to forge Mama's signature, but I was positive that this is what I wanted. Afterward, we lived with Lonnie's parents, John and Eva, until 1933 when we moved into a small shack in East Bank. It was small and run down, but it was our first place, so it will always have a special place in my heart. Lonnie worked hard at his job at the C&O Railroad providing our necessities. Life threw us another curveball with a miscarriage in 1933, the pain of which still echoes in the quiet moments. But a silver lining appeared in June 1934 with the birth of our daughter, Mabel. By this time, Papa, with his graying hair and wise eyes, moved in with us. He would rock Mabel and pray over her, his comforting presence giving her such joy. The circle of life continued though, and Papa breathed his last in 1935. Before I go further, I should tell you the reason that you may see documents with different last names intermittently used for many of my family. Who am I? Am I Anna Frances Hariff, or am I Anna Frances Williams? Still, I find myself constantly grappling with my identity. I remember stories told by Papa about his early days growing up in Bath, Virginia. Each story holds the echoes of past memories, and I listen intently as they unfold the controversy of my last name. The warm golden hue of the setting sun mirrors the two contrasting surnames that have defined my life. While Hariff is a testament to the love story of my grandparents, James and Ann Eliza, Williams is a name adopted in hopes of a fresh start. As I clutch the faded marriage certificate showing the marriage of James Hariff and Ann Eliza Euler in October of 1857, I wonder what those days long ago must have been like with the Civil War looming. My father, George Louis Hariff, born in 1858, was their testament of love, born a year after their marriage. Grandma became pregnant, but before she could deliver, James left for the war, in 1861. Soon after, in 1862, William was born. But life has its way of throwing challenges. While James was gone in the war, Grandma was burdened with not just the absence of her husband, but also the heartbreak of losing William to sickness in 1864. When the war ended, and James returned in 1865, so did the end of their union, and they got divorced. That same year, she married Alexander George Williams. Papa was only 7 years old and scarcely knew his real father, as he was only 3 when James left for the war. Alexander welcomed his new son into his arms and provided him with the security that he so desperately needed. Papa took the last name of this man who stepped in and became his stepfather. It is the weight of this history that presses on my heart when I introduce myself. My name is Anna Frances Hariff. I would say with pride, when I remember the stories of James's valor during the war. But then there are times, especially with so many documents bearing the name Williams, where I felt the pull of the new life my grandmother hoped to create for us. Each name carries its own weight. The Hariff in me speaks of love, bravery, and loss. The Williams in me whispers of hope, resilience, and new beginnings. I am Anna Frances, a tapestry of both legacies, and I wear each name as a badge of honor, telling the tale of a family that faced the tides of time and emerged, still standing. The soft chirping of birds, mixed with the distant hum of the main road, signaled a new beginning for our family. We moved to a new house on the hillside in the lower end of Eastbank. The house was nicer and had more convenient access to the main road, but it came with its drawbacks. The absence of a flat yard made playtime challenging for the kids. Despite being nicer and its ideal proximity to the main thoroughfare, I struggled to warm up to our new home. Lonnie, ever doting on Mabel, would take her everywhere with him. Every payday they would get on the train and ride to Charleston, where he would buy her a new dress even though she has a closet full of dresses that the tags haven't even been removed. He would also bring me a box of candy. My favorite, chocolate-covered cherries. I love this man. The year 1937 marked not just a change of address, but also the addition of a new member to our family. On a bright October day, the 24th to be exact, our son Quincy was born. His laughter and cries brought warmth to our home, and his bond with his elder sister, Mabel, grew stronger each day. Life continued with each of us finding our way in the world. My brother Ronald, always the adventurer, decided to rent a house in Cheyenne. Mama and Mary joined him, and continued taking on boarders to help make ends meet as she always did. This at least was giving our family some stability and a chance to enjoy some of the closeness we once had. Lonnie found a new house for us with enough land to start a garden and have a few farm animals. It was right across the railroad tracks from our first place. Still in Eastbank, it was a two-room building that used to house special track workers that would be brought in from time to time. Owned by the C&O where Lonnie worked, he was able to secure a lease for $3 per month, and we started making it into the place where we would live our lives together. We added some kitchen appliances and started making improvements as time passed along. Lonnie talked the railroad into building us a front porch, but it made the house only about 10 feet from the railroad tracks themselves. I would always run to check on the kids whenever I would hear a train whistle or it was time for a train to pass. In the whirlwind of life events, 1938 brought another reason for celebration: my sister Maxine's marriage to Otis Owen Richard. The two of them set up housekeeping in Cabin Creek, close to the roots of our childhood. As the autumn leaves began to fall in 1939, the world was on the brink of a monumental change. World War II had begun on September 1, a war that would affect countless families, including my own. I remember the stories from the front lines, the anguish and fear it brought to our homes. It seemed as if every man was called to go and fight, and I wondered what would happen to us if my Lonnie had to leave to serve. He was called, but to my delight they said he was flat-footed and would not be able to serve. Lonnie, both relieved and disappointed, resigned himself to continue taking care of things at home. When Mabel turned 16, in 1940, she went to work for the Five and Dime in Montgomery. Both she and Quincy were very enterprising, taking on odd jobs, cutting grass for people or delivering newspapers. After about a year, Mabel went to work for Dr. Hayes in the soda fountain section of his pharmacy in Cheillion. There she met coworker Lucille Burnside, later to become one of my best friends. Mabel went to church with Lucille and together they sang in the choir. My sister Mary was living in a house just a short distance from where we lived, and she decided to move to an apartment close to Charleston. Mabel told Lucille about the vacancy and she and her husband Lawrence rented it. Lucille and Lawrence were regulars at our house and I so enjoyed our time together. She had a son Larry that was close to Kenneth's age and a daughter Linda close in age to my Jimmy, so we had a lot in common. In 1940, as nations battled each other, Lonnie and I found joy again with the birth of our daughter, Thelma Frances, on April 10. She was perfect in every way and gave us hope in these trying times of war and bloodshed. Death touched too many that were close to us, but all I had to do was to look at this precious new being and my joy was renewed. 2 years later, in 1942, my heart was heavy as Ronald, my brave brother, enlisted in the Army. I couldn't help but fear for his safety. But Ronald was always courageous, believing it was his duty to serve his country. However, the heartaches of war weren't confined to the battlefields. In July of 1944, I faced one of the most painful moments of my life when my son, Lonnie Edward, was born and passed away after only 3 short days. I felt an emptiness that words could hardly describe, but I tried to be strong for my family. Heartbroken, and unable to get up from the bed yet, we had a small makeshift funeral for him in my bedroom. Curiosity getting the best of them, I saw little Mabel and Quincy peeking through the window. We buried Lonnie in Slaughters Creek Cemetery alongside Lonnie's brother Quincy, who died in 1929 at the age of 23. Lonnie built a little box with a glass front to put decorations in to keep them fresh. I would take roses that we grew and dip them in wax and put them in the cabinet, and in later years we would put memorial wreaths in it. Memorial Day was very special to both of us. Every year we would load up the car, or truck in later years, with loads of wreaths and flowers. We would buy as many wreaths as our money would allow and pick tons of roses from our house that we would lay on the graves. I would pack sandwiches and drinks and we would go to cemeteries, even those hard to get to. We never missed Decoration Day, as Lonnie called it. It shows that the love of family, alive or past, was at the top of Lonnie and my thinking. Most often than not, we would meet other family members doing the same thing and it became something like a reunion.